and it's been my favorite season. When we think about the church calendar, Advent has always been the one that I'm most connected to. The stars and the light and the talk of hope and peace, and I've always loved it until I didn't.
Mm,
Until I think you get older and you start recognizing the darkness and the injustices. And I started to feel every time we'd enter into like late October, even before we'd hit, Advent proper, I would start to feel this heaviness, this
mhm,
like I was in sync with darkness and what was not right. And so I started to call it my Advent ache because
mhm,
for a handful of years in a row, I would notice I would be so preoccupied with what was not right. And it varied year to year. Was it, seeing children in cages at the border and those conversations about family separation? Was it, things that were happening in Syria and, refugees trying to get out and whether or not we would receive them or not? Like every year it was something different, but it was the same wrestling with injustice
mhm,
and not being completely at ease with talk of hope and peace and light in the midst of all that. And so it was really because at some point I got frustrated. I'm like, I have to get back to my original love for Advent. And I need to get back into these Advent stories to reclaim the joy of the season. And so I went back to, Matthew and Luke, which are the two gospels that give us our Advent stories, and was hoping to reclaim all the what I used to love about Advent. And what I found was actually there was so much darkness and sadness that was the lead up to these Advent stories. There was all these generations of Jewish oppression of the Jewish people,
mhm,
and they're weeping and crying out. And if anybody was silent, because I was told that these were the silent years between the Old and the New Testament, only God had the prerogative to be silent because when you looked at the history, the Jewish people were under one empire or one emperor or another, and all of the pain that they lived through. Um, Actually, I felt vindicated. Like my
mhm,
Advent ache was deeply congruent with
mhm.
what was happening in the story.